Let's bring in Evercore ISI's Mark Mahaney now for more on this big move in tech. It's good to have you on this record-setting day. It's funny, you have your top picks of Alphabet, Amazon, and Uber. We were just mentioning Meta there, which has had a really great run here. Why isn't that at the top of your list?
Because it just had a really great run. I don't know, Scott. I look for these DHQs, these dislocated high-quality companies, and actually one of the Mag 7 stocks that's really underperformed year to date is Google. It's still off 8%, something like that, 8-9%, year to date. And I think there's a really interesting AI play that is underappreciated. There's some major overhangs on Google related to the government and the antitrust case. I get that, and related to ChatGPT. I'm just struck by the opportunity for that sentiment to change. And if it does, the risk reward on this, I think, is extremely strong, extremely positive. And then Amazon would be our number 2 pick. And then Uber would be our number 3 pick. Look, I like Meta. It's sort of a smaller buy for me now, 25, 26 times earnings. I think that multiple is fine. I just don't think there's a lot of upside to the earnings. So it's just a quality compounder. If you want real alpha in the portfolio, I think Google's a better bet than Meta.
When you go to Google, though, some stocks underperform for a reason, right? Your ifs, there are a lot of ifs there, right? AI disruption, the DOJ, the lack of cost focus. How much of that do they have to get right so that your ifs aren't too much of a worry?
Yeah, I know I laid out those 3 in a recent report. I actually think the company's done a better job of managing expenses, and I think actually they've gotten more credit from investors for that. So it's really the other 2. I think we're going to get a clearing event in August. I mean, I'm doing my best. We're doing our best to try to predict what Judge Mehta is going to decide. And I don't think the worst case scenario is going to come to pass. The worst case scenario would be a forced sale of Chrome and then a banning on all search distribution payments. I don't think that's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, I think you've got a clearing event for Google shares. And then what Google then needs to do is prove that they can monetize AI searches, Gen AI searches, AI overview searches just as well as they can traditional searches. They've been saying that publicly, but they got to kind of show it in the numbers. How do you do that? You maintain this kind of 11 to 15% search revenue growth that they've done for the last 2 years. You keep that up at the same pace, Scott, and I think the bears are going to kind of lose steam, and you get a real chance for a re-rating here. It's trading at 17 times earnings. I mean, you remove these 2 overhangs, this thing doesn't stop at 18, 19. It goes to 20 to 23 to 25 times earnings, up where Meta is. That's why the stock, I think the setup here is so attractive for Google here. I get the overhangs, but I think they could be removed as early as a month from now in the case of the DOJ case.
Wow. I mean, I thought it was interesting within the last, week or so when Coatue management, and I've referenced this a couple of times on the various programs here, excluded Google from its top 40 tech companies, when they're looking ahead to the next big things for the next, handful of years, it left it off that list. It was the only one of the biggies left off that list. And here's one of the most astute technology investors that we've known. Did you notice that? And was that a statement of some sorts in your mind as well?
No, I have huge respect for Coatue. I'll stick with my thesis on Google. I think that the idea that they've been kind of left behind by Gen AI is massively overstated. I think they've been, 10 years into AI, and now it's the matter of getting that fire lit where it needed to get lit for Google, and I think it has. And I think they've been accelerating their pace of product rollouts. As long as you can get search, you can prove to people that search is going to continue with that growth. Then you get these amplifier effects that I really like on the stock. YouTube continues to gain share amongst all streaming assets. I think Google Cloud is going to show acceleration in the back half of the year. And then you've got this wonderful option value with Waymo that is going to get unlocked. And, if it gets any sort of credit like Tesla does, that just adds to the kind of the multiple re-rating potential for Google. So that's my Google's thesis, Scott. I'm going to stick with it. I look for these DHQs, these dislocated high-quality companies. Google's at the top of my list right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, Amazon is too, right? I mean, it's your number 1 large cap long. And they have their own huge AI aspirations with AWS, as we learned when we spoke to the CEO exclusively a couple of weeks ago out in San Francisco. I mean, they don't want to cede any ground to anybody.
So, yeah, just to line it up right, Google's the number 1 pick. Amazon's the number 2 pick. For us, Amazon, there's kind of 2 overhangs on Amazon. why it's trading at 28 times earnings versus comps like Walmart that are trading 10 turns higher in terms of the multiple. With the Amazon, they got to prove that they can get through these tariff issues, and they may not be able to. But if I think they're just as well positioned and probably better positioned than any company out there, maybe with the exception of Walmart. But those two, I think their supply networks are sophisticated enough. I think they've been diversifying away from trouble markets for quite some time. So I'm less worried about them on that side. Bigger concern really is, can AWS show this reacceleration that investors want to see? Microsoft Azure has done a wonderful job in the last 6 to 12 months showing that they're riding the Gen AI wave. AWS needs to show this too. I think they'll be able to do that in the back half of the year. If I'm right on that, you get a re-rating on Amazon to do well.
Had a big debate on halftime today over the next 6 months, which stock was going to do better, Tesla or Uber. Uber's in your universe, Tesla isn't, and in the first 6 months of this year, it's been no contest, obviously. Uber has far outpaced Tesla. What happens if Tesla gets autonomous right? Is that stock, what does that mean for Uber in the race for autonomous?
That'll be a negative catalyst for Uber. What Uber needs, in order for Uber to work from here, they need to get more Austins. They need to get more Atlantas. It's not just rolling out with Waymo, although they've been pretty darn successful with the 2 rollouts, and that's what's caused the unlock in the stock year to date. But if you get more of these rollouts with Waymo and you get other AV companies, there's more than just, it's not just Waymo's world and it's not just Tesla's world. And by the way, of those two, Waymo is dramatically better in terms of what they've been able to show and roll out so far. But if you get Zoosk in the market and then you get a couple of Chinese players, not in the U.S., but in parts of the Middle East, maybe in Europe, and if you get more companies like Mobileye, MobileWave, if you get these companies out there showing that you can get multiple AV vendors, maybe not 2 or 3, but maybe 4, 5, or 6, that's better for Uber's economics, better for it as a supply aggregator, because it is far and away the biggest demand aggregator. That's just on the mobility part of the business. On the don't forget the delivery side of the business, which is the world's largest delivery company. So I just think the business is a lot more insulated than people fear, and I think that we're starting to remove these kind of robo-taxi roadkill overhangs. I think there's a lot more room for Uber stock. I know it's up 50% year to date, but this thing trades at like 18, 19 times free cash flow. It should trade at 25 times free cash flow. They're growing their free cash flow 25 to 30%. I think as you get more of these Austins, you're going to see that re-rating continue. So despite how much it's risen year to date, I'll stick with Uber. It's our number 3 pick.
All right, we'll leave it there. Mark, thanks. Good weekend to you. We'll see you soon. Now.